Stay on the line, back to work. Chapter 32, September 2nd, 2016. MK3 drops the recorded intro. You're back listening to the station that's blazing the nation. 96.9 FM Iron Sharpens Iron Morning Show. With yours truly, the infamous Lifeline, and my partner in crime, the lovely Pretty Pearl. This last hour is going to be non-stop hit after hit. We are going to take one caller, the 69th caller. That caller will win $969, also a 6-day cruise to Cancun, Mexico. You know the number, now get to dialing. MK3 hit them with that old school new edition. We will be back in a few minutes. Steve sounded off. MK3 dropped Mr. Telephone Man by new edition. The on-the-air sign went off. When you heading out to the A? Steve asked Pretty Pearl, laying his headphones on the table. Me and my young king leaving tonight. I thought about leaving after the show. Then I remembered I had a few chores to take care of. When are you and Stephanie leaving? We last agreed on leaving in the morning, but you know how that goes. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm just ready to get away from here. That bullshit Satan has been pulling is ridiculous. That note and the video have taken things to another level for sure. I'm getting so much hate mail that it doesn't make sense. I knew Tracy was a very outgoing person, but damn. It's like she related to the whole west side of Charlotte. This week has been crazy, he said, looking at Pretty Pearl. I feel you. This has been a crazy week. When Doug told me that he put you on leave Monday, I didn't know how to take it. We held it down the best we could. Lord knows I'm happy to see your face today. For real, for real. Pretty Pearl said while twisting her lips. I might have been out of it, but I listened every day. Let me be the first to say, you did an awesome job. Believe me, if you had been stinking up the joint, I would have called you ASAP Facts. Thanks. It took me a minute to get in a groove without you. The scary thing is, you will be leaving us for good next year. I know Doug will do a good job finding your replacement, either in-house or somewhere else. They might sit in your chair, but they can't ever replace you. Let me find out. Steve looked at Pretty Pearl up and down. Find out what? Please, let's not go there. 'Cause ain't nobody getting soft. I was just stating a fact, or should I say true story. Pretty Pearl mocked me, talking in a New York accent. See, there you go again. Finishing my thought without having a clue where was going this. I wasn't referring to you be soft. Then he stood up out his chair. So, what did you mean by that? Pretty Pearl asked, with a confused expression on her face. Let me find out that you got a heart, Tin Lady. You must have seen the whiz while I was out on leave. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road, he sang as he danced to the door. He looked back at Pearl to see her face. She threw a pencil at him that barely missed his head. He opened the door and ducked as he ran out. Pretty Pearl watched him as he walked down the hallway with the meanest stare. MK3 tried not to look at her while he hid his smile. What got you smiling over there, Malcolm? Pretty Pearl asked MK3 with an attitude. MK3 didn't like it when they called him by his first name. He flashed a mean look, then turned his chair in the other direction. At the police station, this case has taken a lot of twists and turns. With Satan using the internet as his stomping ground, we must be one step ahead of him. As you can see, our suspect board has a few suspects that have been X'd out. Since the video, hate mail has been rolling in by the thousands. We are combing through the emails as best we can. If we find an email that might have some type of validity to it, we will act on it. Until then, our new focus is on the wife. We need to know her whereabouts at all times. When she goes on her runs, someone needs to be at that park running. When she goes to work, someone needs to be there. The captain is taking the case personally, and so am I. We need to tighten up and get our man, Sergeant Harris said as looked at the team. Any questions? Sergeant Harris asked. Everyone shook their heads side to side. Great. Let's put that work in. The team took their folders and left the briefing room. Sergeant Harris flipped the suspect board over to the other side. The other side had tactical procedures and exit floor plans of the station. While he was looking at the tactical procedures, he zoned out for a second. Knock, knock. Sergeant Lyons knocked on the door, even though it was open. "Can I have a word with you?" she asked from the doorway. Sergeant Harris waved her in. "What is it? Did you think of something new to help this case?" "No. I know that we try to put a rookie with a vet, but the rookies are complaining about Sergeant Gonzalez. Since his mother passed a few months ago, he hasn't been the same. He refuses to take any more time off." "What should we do?" Sergeant Lyons asked. "Who's he teamed up with?" "He's teamed up with Sergeant Jenkins. You switch out partners with him. I believe Sergeant Baker has a more professional approach than Sergeant Jenkins. I'll keep in touch with Sergeant Baker to see how they're coming along. I would advise you to do the same. We can handle this until the captain comes back." "Will do," Sergeant Lyons said. She walked out the room, taping her folder. Sergeant Harris pulled out his cell phone and sent the captain a text. "Sergeant Harris, I briefed the team on our next suspect. Mrs. Williams will be watched like a hawk. I hope this works. I need you to reach out to another unit to get a detail for Rick Stone. I might be the acting captain in your place, but you know they respect the rank, not the position." He put his phone in his pocket and left the briefing room. Detective Bickerstaff's cell phone vibrated on his nightstand. He got up from his desk and walked to his bed. He grabbed his phone and read it. "Captain, I'm on it." Lisa came out of the bathroom with a towel wrapped around her hair and another towel in her hand. She patted the water off her skin, gently. "I didn't hear you get up and take a shower," Detective Bickerstaff said to Lisa. "I know. When you start going on your computer, nothing else matters. I was getting up to run to South Park Mall to get my father a birthday gift. Then..." Lisa started, then paused. "Then what?" "Is everything okay?" Detective Bickerstaff asked. "Then my phone rang before I hopped in the shower. My supervisor called. They need me to work this weekend. I could have said no since I had this time scheduled off, but didn't. 3 stewardesses and a pilot got food poisoning. My supervisor promised me that as soon as someone signs back on duty, I can get back out here. I'm going to take my dad out to brunch, then I'm headed to the airport." Lisa put on her bra. "Damn, I missed all of that." "I understand when duty calls. Hopefully, your father will. I wish I could go into the station right now. I'm dying over here." Detective Bickerstaff flopped on the bed. He spread across the bed as if he was Jesus on the cross. "Stop being a baby. If you would have sat your butt down, you would be at work. You didn't take care of your wound. Now you have an infection. Deal with it. You take the steward out of stewardess." Detective Bickerstaff pouted. Then he rolled over with his back to Lisa. "Cut it out. You know I'm here for you, but I will never attend your pity parties. Finish the antibiotics, and you should be good to go. The doctor will release you once the infection goes away. Until then, stay in front of your computer in a trance." Lisa walked into the bathroom to finish getting dressed. Detective Bickerstaff knew she was right. He sat up and dialed Lieutenant Spears on his cell phone. "Hello?" Lieutenant Spears answered the phone. "Hey, Lieutenant. This is Captain Bickerstaff. I need a favor." "Stay on the line." ATL Bound, Chapter 33, September 3rd, 2018. Steve woke up yawning with a big stretch. When he opened his eyes, he realized Stephanie wasn't next to him. He sat up and noticed a note on the nightstand. He picked up the note and read it. "I went to the gym. I didn't want to wake you. Make sure to finish packing. See you shortly." Steve turned the TV to ESPN, still sitting there. When the show went off, he looked at his cell phone. Damn, it's 8 a.m. He jumped out of bed and started packing. Once he finished packing, he hopped in the shower. "Sweetheart, I'm home." He heard Stephanie yell up the stairs. Stephanie yelled up the stairs to let Steve know she was home. No response. She shook her head and put the bags on the dining room table. He better not be asleep, she thought to herself. She went upstairs to the bedroom. When she saw his bag packed, she simpered with satisfaction. He does listen to me sometimes, she smiled to herself. Yes, Einstein, I did. I even went to Harris Teeter and got us some snacks for the road. I forgot to pick up some pads. My period feels like it is coming early. You don't have to go get them? I'm sure the Range Rover has blood guard seats. She rolled her eyes at him. Okay, I guess I asked for that. Just text me the name brand before you hop in the shower. Can you do that? No problem. My keys are downstairs. Take my car. I can start packing your car for the road. She got her phone and texted him the brand. She threw the phone on the bed as she headed to the bathroom. Ding. The texted came through to his phone. Steve got dressed in Adidas workout gear, sock and slides. Adidas down, looking like an ad model. While in the shower thought, I hope this feeling in the pit of my stomach is my period. She felt something come over her. Steve went downstairs and grabbed Stephanie's key out the bowl on the dining room table. He walked outside to her car. It's filthy as usually. He got in and started the engine. He realized he left his cell phone in the house. He took the house key off her key ring and jumped out the car. He didn't even close the car door. As he put the key in the front door, he noticed someone staring at him from the corner. Not feeling right about leaving the car door open, he slowly started walking back to the car. He never stopped looking at the person on the corner. Boom. The car blew up. Steve flew 6th from the car. He laid there on his back looking up at the sky and not knowing what happened. Suddenly, Stephanie was at his side, barefoot, in a robe. What happened? Are you okay? Steve. What the fuck happened? Stephanie asked as she helped him sit up. He heard her, but his ears were still ringing from the explosion. He looked at the car on fire and realized he could have been in the car. Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm good. Just a little shaken up. Is that guy still on the corner? Stephanie stood up to look. She saw a few of their neighbors watching her car burn. Then she spotted the person on the corner. She couldn't see him clearly because of the thick smoke. She could tell that the person had dreads and a remote control in hand. Are you talking about the guy on the corner with the dreads and... Is that a remote? Stephanie said with a lost tone in her voice. A remote? Steve said as he jumped up. It was Tracy's son, Tashawn. He kicked off his slides and started running towards him. He threw the remote and started to run. He could hear Stephanie, or maybe it was one of the neighbors, yelling but couldn't make out what they were saying. There was a ringing in his ears, plus his eyes burned from the smoke. He was out of his mind for a split second. Tashawn fell forward. Steve jumped on his back. He put him in a headlock from behind. He tried to squeeze the life out of him. The yells got closer and closer, clearer and clearer. Let go of her, Stephanie yelled. Stop, the neighbors yelled. Steve was confused at why the crowd was getting at him. He rolled Tashawn over, and it was a female. When he stood up, the cops were pulling up. They threw Steve on the car and handcuffed him. They read him his rights and put him in the police car. They had him in the car for over an hour. He watched the police and the firefighters do their jobs. After the firefighters put out the car fire, they questioned his neighbors. The police questioned his wife more than they questioned the neighbors. Finally, 2 officers got into the police car with him. Mr. Williams, your wife said she's going to call your lawyer and meet us at the station, one of the officers said. Did she say anything about my cell phone? You're in a police car going to get booked, and you're worrying about your phone. You gotta be kidding, the officer said, and pulled off headed to the station. Stay on the line. Side by Side, Chapter 34. Ring, ring. Detective Bickerstaff got up from his desk and walked over to his bed. He grabbed his cell phone off his nightstand. Sergeant Harris was calling. Hello? Detective Bickerstaff answered the phone. Hey, Captain. I'm on my way to pick you up. Mr. Williams has been arrested for assaulting a minor. He's being held at Davidson Police Department. Also, His wife's car was bombed, Sergeant Harris said. Was anyone hurt? Mr. and Mrs. Williams are fine. Mr. Williams was a little shaken up, from what was reported to me. Sergeant Harris began before the captain cut him off. That's great. This case doesn't need any more bodies popping up, Detective Bickerstaff said, with a sigh of relief. Not too fast, Captain. The Williams are fine. I just can't say the same for Rick Stone. The firefighters found his body in the trunk of the car. They couldn't ID him because of the severe burns, but they were able to recover his wallet. They transported his body to the Davidson Police Department. Hopefully, their forensic team will have a positive ID shortly. Hold up. You trying to tell me Rick Stone, one of our last suspects, is dead? What did the team that was tailing him say? It's not looking good on either side. I have both reports in the car with me. Sergeant Gonzalez might be looking at a suspension, I hate to say. You will understand once you read his report. I'll be pulling up to your apartment in 5 minutes. Meet me downstairs. Okay? Detective Bickerstaff ended the call. Back at the precinct, Steve woke up, sitting in a chair in an empty room. His hands were cuffed to the middle of the table. He wiped the slob off the corner of his mouth on his shoulder. No one had spoken to him since he got there. It wasn't the type of room you see on television. The room could be a 6x10 or 5x10. No windows or two-way mirrors. It's kind of creepy. Steve felt like he's been here all day, at least a few hours. The door opened, then this tall white guy walked in. Thank God, I thought y'all forgot me, Steve said. Mr. Williams, I am Detective Sanders. Sorry that no one has been in here to check on you. Do you need anything? I don't need anything. I just have a few questions. He scooted his chair closer to the table. What are your questions? I'll try to answer them. What time is it? Am I being charged with anything? Is my wife or my lawyer here? He rambled his questions off to Detective Sanders. It's 1:13. No, you are not being charged. The parents of the young lady you attacked decided not to press charges. The young lady has some type of mental issues. The remote she had was stolen. She walked into their next-door neighbor's garage and stole their drone. The neighbor decided not to press charges on the young lady, and I guess her parents are paying it forward. They didn't file a restraining order on you due to your celebrity status, but it would behoove you to keep your distance. Also, your lawyer is in the waiting area. Now, if you don't need anything, I will be back in a few, Detective Sanders said. Then he started walking toward the door. Detective Bickerstaff and Sergeant Harris parked the car outside of the Davidson Police Department. Detective Sanders saw them pull up as he smoked his cigarette outside of the entrance. Detective Sanders threw his cigarette down, then walked to the car to greet them. They opened the car doors and got out of the car. Captain Bickerstaff, Detective Sanders shouted as he walked toward the car. Yes? Detective Bickerstaff responded. I'm Lieutenant Sanders. I'm the one who called your department. Follow me, and I will fill you on what we have recorded thus far. Detective Sanders shook Detective Bickerstaff's hand. Okay, great. This is Sergeant Harris, my lead detective, Detective Bickerstaff said. Nice to meet you, Detective Sanders said as he shook hands with Sergeant Harris. Detective Sanders walked them straight to his office. He sat at his desk, and they sat in the 2 chairs in front of him. Detective Sanders grabbed 2 folders off his desk, then handed them to Detective Bickerstaff. Detective Sanders told them, One folder has what my officers documented at the Williams residence, statements from neighbors that witnessed the explosion and the neighbors that saw Mr. Williams assault a young female. The second folder has Mrs. Williams' statement on the explosion, plus all the places she's been in the car before the explosion occurred. We have Mr. and Mrs. Williams in separate rooms. We haven't told either one of them about Rick Stone being in the trunk. And yes, my forensic team has identified the body as being Rick Stone. Mr. and Mrs. Williams are free to go. We don't have anything to charge them with. I only held them this long for you, and anything I can do to piss a lawyer off, I will. Their lawyer has been waiting for hours for them to be released. I know this is your case, but this explosion has happened in my jurisdiction. Therefore, I ask that you keep me informed. Hopefully, it's not the doing of anyone in my city. Of course, I will relay that to you personally. Detective Bickerstaff replied dubiously. Great. Officer Haley, Detective Sanders yelled in the hallway as an officer walked by. The officer turned around and came to Detective Sanders' office doorway. Yes, Lieutenant? Officer Haley answered. Take Captain Bickerstaff and Sergeant Harris. Show them where we are holding Mr. and Mrs. Williams, Detective Sanders said as he stood up to shake their hands. Detective Bickerstaff and Sergeant Harris stood up. They shook his hand. 10-4, Lieutenant. Follow me, Officer Haley said. Then he led them to Mrs. Williams' door. Mrs. Williams is in this room. Mr. Williams is 2 doors over, Officer Haley said as he pointed to Mr. Williams's room. Thanks, Sergeant Harris said. Then Officer Haley walked off. Who should we talk to first? Sergeant Harris asked Detective Bickerstaff. Definitely Mrs. Williams. She's not too fond of me for some reason. Whatever she tells us might be useful when we talk to Mr. Williams. I'm going to let you start the questioning. I will sit quietly, reading over the folders you brought me. Then I will jump in and wrap up the questioning. Sounds like a plan to me, Sergeant Harris said. He opened the door and they walked in. Mrs. Williams rolled her eyes once she saw Detective Bickerstaff. Mrs. Williams, how are you doing? Are you okay? Sergeant Harris asked. Then Stephanie stopped him. Damn. Are y'all everywhere? Charlotte, Davidson, New York, Miami, South Carolina. Can I go anywhere without having to deal with you? I was doing fine until I saw his face. I already gave a statement, so. What do you two want with me? She asked with an attitude. Detective Bickerstaff sat in a chair, going through the folders. I'm sorry that you feel that way about us trying to solve this case. You know, we are trying to find the person that has put a threat on your husband's life. Not for nothing, but the better the information, the quicker this case can be over. Sorry that we must ask you the same questions the officers here asked you. We must conduct our own investigation on the new events. Please try to understand that we are tired of this case as well, Detective Harris said. Detective Bickerstaff and Stephanie both looked at him saying that. Now, after you answer a few questions, you and your husband can go home, Sergeant Harris continued. I can do that, Stephanie responded. Where have you been in your car today? Sergeant Harris asked as he pulled a small notepad and pen out his back pocket. I went to the gym, then Harris Teeter. Then I went straight home, Stephanie answered. Which gym? Also, how far is the Harris Teeter from that gym? Sergeant Harris asked. Snap Fitness. And Harris Teeter is in the same complex. I didn't have to drive to the grocery store. My car stayed in the same place. Let me read back to you what I have. Mrs. Williams parked her car, then went into the gym to work out. When she finished working out, she walked to Harris Teeter to get some groceries. After she did her shopping, she loaded the groceries in the trunk, then got in her car and drove home. Does that sound accurate to you? Sergeant Harris asked Stephanie. Everything, except me putting the groceries in the trunk. I always put my groceries in the back seat. I have a problem with overlooking things if they're in the truck. I left a pack of chicken wings one day. I drove almost a whole week with them in the trunk. Just thinking about that makes me nauseous. I will never forget that smell. Stephanie had a frown on her face. Okay, let me change that in my notes. What about when you got home? What did you do when you got home? I got the groceries out the car and took them in the house. I asked my husband to run to the store. I forgot my feminine products. I went to take a shower as he left out to go to the store. Then I heard the explosion, not knowing it was my car. I was trying to be nosy like always. I saw it was my car on fire when I opened the front door. Then I ran over to my husband once I spotted him. Do you know Rick Stone? Detective Bickerstaff interjected as he stood up out his seat. No. Who is Rick Stone? The man that burned to death in your trunk, Detective Bickerstaff said, unrelenting. What do you mean burned to death in my trunk? How did a man get in my trunk? Nobody was in my trunk, I promise you that. Can you really promise me that? That man had an internet radio show, bashing your husband every chance he got. You don't know him? The same man that has memberships at 2 different gyms that you go to frequently. You don't know him? Is it possible that you do know him? On an intimate level? Detective Bickerstaff said, as he slammed the folder on the table and stared at Mrs. Williams. I don't know who the fuck you think you talking to. Stephanie started. Then she paused. She closed her eyes, then exhaled strongly. You know what? Whatever this is, it's over. I need you to get my lawyer. Stephanie said in the calmest tone. Then she crossed her arms. That might be the most convincing thing I heard you say since we met. Stephanie bit her lip and closed her eyes. One weasel lawyer on the way, Detective Bickerstaff said, as he opened the door to walk out. Detective Sanders was opening the door at the same time, coming into the room. Sorry for interrupting, but I have something you need to see, Detective Sanders said, holding the door halfway open. Detective Bickerstaff and Sergeant Harris followed him to his office. Detective Sanders walked in his office. Sergeant Harris grabbed Detective Bickerstaff by the arm, stopping him from going into Detective Sanders' office. What was that about with Mrs. Williams? Sergeant Harris said with a worried look on his face. I had to switch it up. We've been too passive with this case and the suspects. We need some answers now. Now, meaning last month. Just follow my lead, Detective Bickerstaff said. Then he walked into the office. Sergeant Harris looked at Detective Bickerstaff for a second as he walked off, not knowing how to take him. Then Sergeant Harris followed him in the office. One of the detectives on my team recovered the tape from the Harris Teeter parking lot. Watch this, Detective Sanders told them. Detective Sanders turned his laptop around on his desk for them to see the video on the flash drive. He pressed play. The video started with Mrs. Williams walking out of the gym. She walked into Harris Teeter. 30 seconds later, Rick Stone walked out of the gym. He looks around as if he was looking for someone or something. Rick walked over to Mrs. Williams's car. Then he bent down where the camera couldn't see what he was doing. It appeared that he was tying his shoes. He stood up and looked around, opened her trunk, then got in. Detective Sanders fast-forwarded the video to Mrs. Williams coming out of Harris Teeter. She walked to her car and put the bags in the back seat. She got in the car and then pulled off. Detective Swoops didn't really believe Mrs. Williams's story. He takes it to the heart if he feels that someone is lying to him. I'm glad that he was wrong, but this video has not helped me to understand anything. You can take the flash drive. Hopefully, it will help you with your investigation, Detective Sanders said as he handed Detective Bickerstaff the flash drive. Then he took a seat behind his desk. Sergeant Harris and Detective Bickerstaff walked out of the office. They stopped in the hall outside of Mrs. Williams's room. Sergeant Harris grabbed the knob, getting ready to open the door. Detective Bickerstaff put his hand on Sergeant Harris's wrist. Sergeant Harris looked at him. Mr. Williams, Detective Harris whispered, then pointed to Mr. Williams's room. Stay on the line. Planting seeds. Chapter 35. Mr. Williams, Detective Bickerstaff greeted as he walked through the door. Sergeant Harris came in behind him and sat in a chair at the table across from Steve. I hope you're here to release me. I don't know why they still got me in these handcuffs since they said they weren't charging me. Detective Bickerstaff tilted his head towards him. Sergeant Harris got up and took the handcuffs off. Then he sat back down. I'm sorry that you had to sit here this long handcuffed, but we do need to ask you a few things before you go. Detective Bickerstaff walked around the back of Steve. Steve rubbed his wrist as he tried to follow him with his eyes. Did you know that Rick Stone and your wife have some type of relationship? Detective Bickerstaff asked, still walking the room. That can't be true. My wife wouldn't. Especially after... She just wouldn't. After what? Finish what you were going to say, Detective Bickerstaff said. Steve didn't say anything. He just looked at him. Before I go any further, I need to tell you something. Rick Stone's body was found in the trunk of your wife's car, The explosion burned him to the point of no return. Detective Bickerstaff stood in front of Steve on the other side of the table. Steve covered his face with his hands. Sergeant Harris and Detective Bickerstaff looked at each other. Then they looked back at him. He slid his hand off his face slowly. I didn't expect to hear that from you. Of all things, I saw so much potential in Rick's future in this industry. Wow, back to your wife. We watched the video of her leaving the gym and going into Harris Teeter. The video from the parking lot camera proves she was telling the truth about her whereabouts, but it doesn't explain her relationship with Mr. Stone. The new evidence of their relationship puts your wife on top of the suspect list, Detective Bickerstaff was saying before Steve cut him off. Hold up, I'm noticing a pattern here. Every time the case gets a little difficult, you implement my wife. Instead of y'all doing your job, you do this. I'm really lost for words and disappointed. My tax dollars pay for these types of antics. This is a joke. Steve stared Detective Bickerstaff in his eyes. Detective Bickerstaff opened the folder he was holding. He slapped 3 different pictures on the table. Randy Johnson, Tracy Dillion, and Rick Stone. 3 deaths, or should I say murders. All 3 of them are tied to you, which is understandable. But what is the connection they all had with your wife? Don't answer that yet. Your wife, Satan, the killer, they're accomplices. This case has a lot of layers. I'm going to ask you one more time. Do you know about your wife's relationship with Rick Stone, or any of them for that matter? No, not at all. Okay. Your lawyer will be in here shortly, and you will be free to go. Detective Bickerstaff turned to walk out of the room. You didn't tell me how my wife knew Rick. Detective Bickerstaff opened the door and walked out. Sergeant Harris picked up the pictures and left his card. I'm sorry about all of that, but the captain is very passionate when it comes to solving a case. Call me if you think of something that can help the case, Sergeant Harris said. Then he walked out of the room. Steve held the card, bemused. Sergeant Harris caught up to Detective Bickerstaff, sending the lawyer to the Williams rooms. They walked to the car and got in. Sergeant Harris started the engine, then cut the car off again. Before we go, answer this for me. Why you didn't tell them everything that we saw in the video? Sergeant Harris asked Detective Bickerstaff. I wanted to see if anything I did tell them concerned them any, and it didn't. Neither of them even thought twice about him being in the trunk. Plus, the seed was planted. Mr. Williams has his concerns about his wife's infidelity. I noticed that when I asked him about her when this all started. Now I just need Mr. Williams to water that seed when he goes home. Just wait and look for the beanstalk to grow, Detective Bickerstaff said. That makes sense. Why this method of playing mind games? Sergeant Harris asked. Right now our case is cold. No suspects, no leads. 3 murders and the killer's still on the loose, laughing in our face. Stop my methods if you have another way. I don't want to wait until another body pops up. Detective Bickerstaff looks at Sergeant Harris. I don't have any suggestions. I guess we will see what sprouts up. Sergeant Harris started the car and drove off. Stay on the line back to back. Chapter 36. Hey, baby girl, what's going on? Steve asked Steffi over the phone. Nothing much. Getting ready for this Labor Day cookout I got invited to. How are you and Mom doing? Steffi asked. We're good. It's a lot going on over here. We were going to come out there to see you, but something happened. It's always something you already know. Your mother said you needed to talk to me. You still need to talk? Yes and no. I was going to ask you if my friend could come home with me this weekend. His family came in town, so we changed plans. I really want you to meet him, Daddy. Steven says he's weird. He never likes anyone I date. I told Mommy about him already. Maybe next break we'll ride out there. That sounds like a plan. I'm not going to hold you up. Tell your brother I said call me. Love you, baby girl. I love you more, Daddy. Then she ended the call. Steve placed the phone on his chest as he laid in the bed. He laid there thinking about the day. That explosion could have been the death of him. Just then, Stephanie walked into the bedroom from taking a shower. She already had on her pajamas. "You okay?" Stephanie asked. "I'm good. Just got off the phone with baby girl. She said she wants me to meet some guy she's seen. I didn't ask any questions. You know how she does. Hopefully, he can last to the next holiday," he said with a little chuckle. "She'll grow out of that. Trust and believe." Stephanie got in the bed. She got under the cover, kissed him, and turned her back to him. Steve turned off the lamp on his nightstand and turned his back to her. "Tomorrow, start looking for us a place in Charlotte, something close to the downtown area. We need to move as soon as possible. True story. I can't stay in this community after what went down today. Make it happen. Good night." "Good night, sweetheart," Stephanie said with a little smirk. They laid there in the dark, with their eyes opened. On the other side of town, Detective Bickerstaff sat at his desk at home, going over the folders thoroughly. The team that was watching Rick Stone had notes that lined up with the video. They lost sight of Rick when a van that was waiting for a parking spot blocked their view. They thought Rick went into Harris Teeter. After they waited for 30 minutes, one of the detectives went into the grocery store. They called the station and told them that they lost Rick in a Davidson Harris Teeter parking lot. They stayed with his car, hoping that he would show back up. Detective Bickerstaff laid that folder down and picked up the other one. Ring, ring. Detective Bickerstaff looked at his phone on his desk. He didn't recognize the number but still answered it. "Hello?" Detective Bickerstaff said. "Hello? This call is in reference to your..." The recording was saying before he ended the call. He started looking over Sergeant Gonzalez's notes. He not only left Sergeant Baker at Walmart after sending him in, but he also relieved the other detail that was watching Mrs. Williams. Then he decided to get missing on department time. After reading all of this, Detective Bickerstaff dialed Sergeant Harris on his cell phone. "Hey, Captain." Sergeant Harris answered the phone. "Hey. I'm going to have to suspend Sergeant Gonzalez. I hope it won't take him over the edge after losing his mother, but something must be done. What he did is inexcusable. He could lose his badge. Luckily, Mrs. Williams didn't get hurt due to his negligence. I understand totally. I hate that he put you in this position. I know. Well, I will reach out to you tomorrow. Good night." Detective Bickerstaff ended the call. Stay on the line. Fast forward. Chapter 37. That car explosion changed everything for Steve's family. They finally told the twins everything that happened with Satan. They already heard some things from friends and family, but not from them. They moved to downtown Charlotte less than a week after. Everything was coming together. Not a sign of Satan since that explosion. Detective Bickerstaff said they found some evidence at Rick's place. The evidence makes him an accomplice to the murders, maybe even Satan himself. He told Steve and his family to stay alert and ahead of the game. He suggested Steve hire a bodyguard 3 months prior to his retirement. Steve laughed the detective off at first, until his retirement got closer. His wife and kids begged him to reconsider. He gave in eventually. Back to the present day. "Mr. W, Mr. W," Tank yelled over and over. Still unconscious, Steve was laying there in a dream state. The past year was playing in his mind, from when Satan first came around until when he got missing. Christmas was beautiful. The kids had a ball. Plus, downtown had Christmas lights everywhere. In the middle of him thinking about one of their side of pork episodes, he started coming to. Steve choked on his own breath, then Tank sat him up. He was laying on the couch in Doug's office. "Where's Doc? Is Doc okay?" he said as he pulled himself together. "Doc's fine." Stan, the security guard, stayed with him until the ambulance picked him up. Tank said as he put the smelling salts back in the first aid kit on the floor. "If everyone is in here with me, who's running the show?" Steve looked at everyone questionably. MK3, Pretty Pearl, and Doug were watching him. "He's back. I was hoping hitting your head would knock some sense into it. Just like my last Powerball ticket, I was hoping against the odds." Pretty Pearl said as she walked out of the office. Then everyone followed her, except for Tank. How long was I out? He tried to stand up but got lightheaded. He sat back down immediately. 25 minutes tops. 5 more minutes. I was taking you to the hospital and calling your wife, Tank said. I'm glad you didn't. I don't want to hear her mouth. Please get me some ice for my head, it's killing me. He rubbed the bump on the back of his head. Do you want me to send for some ice? No, I want you to get it. I want to have a second to myself. Tank nodded his head, then headed out of the office. Steve sat there for a second trying to pull himself together, knowing he needed to be on top of his game. My last show must be epic, he thought to himself. He got up and looked out Doug's window. He loves what the downtown represents. Growth and power. The city has a pulse of its own. You gotta tap into its vein to ride the flow. Tank walked back in the room with a paper cup with ice. This is the best I could do. All the first aid kits on this floor don't have the ice packs. It was either this cup of ice or ice in a coffee filter. Tank handed him the cup of ice. Steve placed the cup on his bump. The way the bump felt, you would think there would be blood. Doug came back into the office, looking for some papers in his desk. Don't mind me, Doug said. He got the papers, then left back out. I'm ready, Steve told Tank. He walked towards the door. Tank walked out before him, doing his look through 18 ways before he allowed Steve to walk out. He smiled appreciatively at the way he moved. Thanks, Tank. For what, Mr. W? For making sure I'm good, even when it puts you in danger. Thanks for real. He walked down the hall holding the cup to my head. It's not only my job, but it's also my pleasure. After I finish this assignment, you can thank me, Tank said, walking through the hall like RoboCop. When they got closer to the studio, Steve saw a few photographers. He took the cup off his head and snapped into character. Make sure y'all get my best side, he yelled down the hall to the photographers. Which side is that? One of the photographers asked. Is that a trick question? Just make it epic. That's the word of the day. Epic. And believe you me, you will know which side is my best once you start snapping the pictures. Steve gave them a big smile, then opened the door and walked into the studio. Tank stayed out in the hallway. Steve could tell Tank was uncomfortable with all the photographers taking pictures. Music was playing as Steve walked around the table to his seat. He noticed on their snack table his retirement cake with a slice already cut out. He took a scoop of the icing with his finger, then tasted it. Buttercream, my favorite. He sat down and put on his headphones. I'm glad you could join us, Pretty Pearl said. Steve didn't say anything. He shook his head with a slight grin. He hoped that she will be able to keep her emotions together. MK3 handed him one big trash bag, then another. The first bag is from your fans and friend. The other one is from all of us at the station. Happy birthday, big homie, MK3 said. Thanks, he said to MK3. Steve put both bags on the floor beside him. He reached in the friend and fans bag. He pulled out a handful of cards and placed them on the table. He noticed all the letters were opened already. He read as many cards he could while they were off the air. Some fans he knew and some he didn't, but they all meant so much to him. MK3 starts the 30-second countdown. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we on. MK3 drops the recorded intro. You back listening to the station that's blazing the nation. 96.9 FM Iron Sharpens Iron Morning Show. With yours truly, the infamous Lifeline, and my partner in crime, the lovely Pretty Pearl. As you all know, today is my last day on the air. Your boy is hanging up his microphone. It has been so memorable that MK3 put some of our greatest memories together. We will be playing these memories throughout the show. Keep it locked to your favorite station. We'll be right back. He sounded off. Then the on-the-air sign went off. MK3 started playing some of their greatest moments. They smiled, listening to old segments. At the police department. Knock, knock, knock. Detective Bickerstaff looked to see who was knocking at his door. It was Sergeant Lyons. "Can I come in?" Sergeant Lyons asked. "Sure." Sergeant Lyons walked in, then closed the door behind her. Detective Bickerstaff shut his laptop and slid his chair closer to his desk. Sergeant Lyons sat in one of the chairs in front of him. "I know we are leaving in a few minutes," Sergeant Lyons said. Then she paused. "But," Detective Bickerstaff said, "it's Sergeant Harris. He has the same look in his eyes today that I saw when Tracy Dillion died. Please keep an eye on him, Captain." Sergeant Lyons said, very concernedly, "I got you. I will keep him close to me at all times. Thanks, Captain," Sergeant Lyons said. She got up, opened the door, and left the office. Detective Bickerstaff watched the door a few seconds after she left, wondering what it is about Sergeant Harris that has her so concerned. He picked up his cell phone from his desk, then texted Sergeant Harris. "Captain, gather the team and meet me in the briefing room in 30 minutes. Sergeant Harris, 10-4, back at the radio station. Caller, you're on the line with Lifeline. State your name and where you are calling from," Steve said. "My name is Carlos, and I'm calling from Far Rockaway, New York," the caller said. "Hey, Carlos, what's on your mind? First of all, happy birthday, and may your retirement be all that you desire. If you wild out on your birthday like you did when you turned 13, smell your own finger before you let someone else smell it. Once again, enjoy your birthday." The caller hung up. "Okay, that was a childhood friend. There's a story behind his story, but that's not for the airways. Thanks for the wishes. Tell Benny and the family I said hi. MK3's got more memories coming up next. Keep it locked to your favorite station. We'll be right back." Then the on-the-air sign went off. "What's the story?" Pretty Pearl asked with a devilish smile on her face. "Nah, you won't get me to tell that story. That's an Inwood Street story. You had to be there," he said with a smile on his face. He totally forgot about that story, and thinking about it, he sees why. Only Carlos. Steve started going through the bag of gifts that the radio station crew gave him. He pulled out an old towel, still dirty, and a dirty Yankees mug. He tore the bag, completely opening it on the floor next to him. It was full of things he loaned to someone or things he left in the station. Funny, funny, funny. Y'all stay with the jokes. Where my real gifts? Steve looked at Pretty Pearl. Why you looking at me? Those gifts are from everybody. You always talking about us not giving you back the things we borrowed. Then when we give them back, you complain. We can't win from losing, Pretty Pearl said. Then she stood up and gave MK3 a high five across the table. When she sat back down, she hit him with the duck lips. Touché. Y'all could have washed this shit at least. He looked at the trash on the floor. Tank knocked on the glass trying to get his attention. Webster on steroid wants you? Pretty Pearl said, referring to Tank. Keep it up. Steve got up and went to see what he wanted. Doc is dead, Tank whispered in his ear. Steve leaned back and gave Tank a look of disbelief. Tank just nodded his head up and down gently. Are you okay? He whispered to Tank. Once again, he just nodded his head to say yes. When he walked back in the studio, Pretty Pearl realized something happened by the look on her face. After he sat in his chair, she came over and rubbed his shoulders. He put his head down with his eyes closed for a second. When he opened them, he saw Stephanie holding a gift box. She was standing in the hall, watching through the glass. Stay on the line. If looks could kill. Chapter 38. Hey, baby, Steve said as he opened the door to let Stephanie in. He took the gift box out her hand and tried to give her a kiss on the lips. She turned her head. His kiss landed on her cheek. I got you a chair next to mine's. I can't believe you're here early, baby. He walked her to their chairs. From what I just saw, I think I came right on time. Hey, everybody. Stephanie greeted the room, but never took her eyes off Pretty Pearl as she sat down. Back at the police department, Detective Bickerstaff walked into the briefing room to a lot of commotion. "Settle down, guys, and have a seat," he said as he walked to the empty suspect board. The entire team was there except Sergeant Gonzalez. He took a leave of absence to take care of family business. He was doing better after he served his 3-month suspension. Sergeants Harris, Lyons, Jenkins, and Baker were the team today. Either Satan has come out of hiding, or he has a copycat. Someone shot an arrow into Mr. Williams's limo while he was heading to the radio station. The arrow went into the driver door and hit the driver in the thigh. The driver was transported to the hospital, where he was later pronounced dead. The arrowhead was laced with some type of poison. We are trying to keep this on the hush. If it gets in the hands of the press, it will be all over the internet. We must avoid that from happening by any means. Understood? Detective Bickerstaff asked the team. "Yes, Captain," echoed in the room from the team. "Great. The owner, Doug, has doubled up on the security at the radio station. Also, Mr. Williams took my advice and hired a personal bodyguard. Tank's his name. He's one of the top celebrity bodyguards. Sergeant Harris will mirror me. The rest of you will work with one of the security guards. I requested some backup from the department, but was denied due to the arrest we failed to get. Once we get there, I will tell you who you will be teamed up with. Keep your radio on Channel 12 and keep your eyes open. Meet me downstairs to load up in 10 minutes. Let's get the bad guy today," Detective Bickerstaff said, then walked out the briefing room. Back at the radio station, Stephanie sat there in awe of the fans calling into the station. She didn't realize how her husband touched so many people. "You good, baby?" he asked Stephanie. "Yeah, I'm fine, sweetheart," Stephanie said softly. "Okay. I only asked because of that look on your face. You were looking zoned out." "Zoned out, really?" Stephanie said with a smile. Then her smile turned into a frown when she saw Detective Bickerstaff talking to Tank in the hallway. Detective Bickerstaff and Sergeant Harris walked into the studio. "I suddenly got sick. I'm going to the bathroom," Stephanie said in a raised voice as she got out her chair. She rolled her eyes at Detective Bickerstaff as she walked by. "Make sure she makes it back in one piece," Detective Bickerstaff whispered in Sergeant Harris's ear. Sergeant Harris waited for a moment, then kept his distance following Stephanie. Detective Bickerstaff motioned his finger for Steve to come to him. He got up and they walked to the furthest corner in the room. "I have my team in place, partnered up with the security officers here. I have the stairwell covered on both sides of the hall. Also, I have the elevator covered. Tank, Sergeant Harris and I won't let you out of our sight. Just try to act as normal as possible." "Will do. Hopefully, you will arrest whoever is doing all of this. When you do, please have the decency to apologize to my wife. She hasn't forgiven you for stirring up stuff in our house." "I will." Detective Bickerstaff walked out of the room. Steve walked back to his chair and sat down. He put his headphones on, while still looking through the window into the hallway. Detective Bickerstaff walked down the hall, talking on his handheld radio. "Detective Bickerstaff, he's sexy to be a white boy. He could put the cuffs on me tonight, I won't scream." Pretty Pearl licked her lips. "Stop, please. I almost vomited in my mouth," he said, making a hacking noise. MK3 turned his head, struggling not to laugh out loud. "What? Ever." Pretty Pearl gave him the middle finger. MK3 starts the 30-second countdown. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we on. MK3 whispered. MK3 drops the recorded intro. "You're back listening to the station that's blazing the nation. 96.9 FM Iron Sharpens Iron Morning Show. With yours truly, the infamous Lifeline, and my partner in crime, the lovely Pretty Pearl. Thanks for all the shout-outs. Thanks for all the love. Today has been better than I could ever expect. To have my wife up here with me, I couldn't ask for more. The phone lines are lighting up. Let me get back to them. Caller, you're on the line with Lifeline. State your name and where you are calling from." Steve said. Then the lights went off in the building. "I'm back, bitches. Lifeline, You have 1 hour before you make it rain all over the studio. Literally. Time is ticking, and you're sitting in the hot seat. Have Detective Bickerstaff check under your seat. Don't get up, if you know what's best for you. Make sure you stay on the line, or the bomb will go off immediately. Your fans need to hear your grand finale. I'll be back. Satan out. Satan sounded off with that same demonic voiceover machine. Detective Bickerstaff busted into the studio with a flashlight. He turned the flashlight in his face as he put his fingers over his lips to get everyone's attention. He pointed at Pretty Pearl and MK3, then to the door. Pretty Pearl and MK3 followed Detective Bickerstaff's instruction and left the studio. Tank and Sergeant Harris started gathering the people on the floor to one side of the hall, while the team and the security staff worked together trying to find the best way to evacuate the building. Meanwhile, Detective Bickerstaff got on his knees and crawled under the table to Steve's chair. Looking under the chair, it looked normal until he noticed some of the stitching was different than the other side. Detective Bickerstaff reached in his pocket and pulled out a Swiss Army knife. He pulled the blade out, then started cutting the padding. The bomb had a sophisticated timer with a pressure detonator. If he got up, the bomb would go off. Detective Bickerstaff placed his hand on Steve's knee, then dropped his head. Steve sighed as he leaned his head back on the chair. Try not to move. The wrong move might activate the bomb. I'm going to call the bomb squad. We have 45 minutes, Detective Bickerstaff said as he took a picture of the bomb with his cell phone. He crawled from under the table and went into the hallway. He got on his phone, but still watched Steve through the glass. Tank walked up to Detective Bickerstaff while he was talking to the bomb squad. Tank heard enough, then he walked into the studio. The generator kicked the lights back on. Mr. W, is there anything I can get for you? Tank asked. No, I'm good. Did my wife make it out of the building? I'm not too sure. Let me check with the head of security. I'll be right back. Tank left the studio. Steve tried to read Detective Bickerstaff's lips, but couldn't make out what he was saying on the phone. Tank walked up to Sergeant Harris and the head of security. Did Mrs. Williams make it out the building? She wasn't in the group of people I helped, Sergeant Harris said. Then he pulled out his radio. Sergeant Harris got on the radio as he walked up the hall towards Detective Bickerstaff. I haven't seen her either. We checked all the rooms on this floor, including the bathrooms. She must be gone. I just didn't see her, said Stan, head of security. Tank stood there, knowing he couldn't take what they said back to Mr. W. The lights in the building went out again. This time it wasn't completely dark. The exit sign illuminated a little light. I'm back, bitches. Time's running out. Your fans are getting very antsy. Look out the window. You finally got the city behind you. 30 minutes and counting, Satan said. Steve grabbed the phone. Why are you doing this? If you want to kill me, come do it man to man, he said, feeling the urge to stand up on his terms. That feeling didn't last too long. He started praying out loud. Then he thought about the scriptures he read a few hours ago in Daniel, when the king said, May your God whom you serve continually rescue you. After reflecting on that, a sense of calm came over him. Detective Bickerstaff? Detective Bickerstaff. Steve yelled at the top of his lungs to get Detective Bickerstaff's attention. Detective Bickerstaff came into the studio. Where's the bomb squad? They're on their way. The city has experienced the most bomb threats today in Charlotte's history. There are only 2 units in a 50-mile radius of us. I'm hoping that one makes it to us soon, Detective Bickerstaff whispered. No need to whisper. I can care less what he hears. He's no longer running the show here. Do you have any bomb experience? He turned his chair to look out the window to see the crowd. No, not at all. I started looking at a few bomb defusing videos on YouTube. Besides that, no prior training, Detective Bickerstaff said, with a lost look on his face. I hope you're a fast learner, because I'm not waiting for the timer to run out. I'd rather die trying to save my life than to sit here waiting to die. Call and see how far the squad unit is, and ask for some pointers on this type of bomb. As he continued looking out the window, He started gaining strength as the crowd grew. "Will do." Detective Bickerstaff got on the phone with the bomb squad as he walked back in the hall. Sergeant Harris and Tank walked up to Detective Bickerstaff. They looked at him as if they needed to talk to him. "Hold on for a second," Detective Bickerstaff told the operator. "What is it?" Detective Bickerstaff asked Sergeant Harris and Tank. "Mr. W. asked me to see if his wife made it out the building. I want to go back in there with him, but no one has seen her." "What should I do?" Tank asked the detective. "Tell him she made it out. He's in a good place at this moment. We can't do anything to change that. Also, neither one of you has to stay here. I got this." Detective Bickerstaff said to them both. "I'm staying," Tank said. "Come on, Captain, really?" Sergeant Harris said. "Okay, I just had to put that out there." Detective Bickerstaff got back on the phone. Tank walked into the studio. "Why are you still here? I'm not signing off on no overtime," Steve said to Tank. He saw his reflection as he looked out the window. "You crazy," Tank said with a chuckle. Steve had to turn around. He finally got a little laugh out of him. "It took me sitting on a bomb to get a laugh out of you." "Whatever. I still haven't laughed," Tank said, trying to look serious. "Is my wife safe?" "Yes, she's good." Tank lied as he looked at the timer. "Great," he said as Satan chimed back in. "I'm back, bitches. 15 minutes to lift off. I hear you trying to be brave. That's so cute. Tick, tick, tick. Hopefully, you had a light breakfast. I hate to waste a good meal. Tick, tick, tick. I kill me, Satan out." Detective Bickerstaff hung up the phone after listening to Satan. "Did you hear that ticking in the background when Satan was talking?" Detective Bickerstaff asked Sergeant Harris. "Yes, I heard it, but I couldn't tie it to anything," Sergeant Harris said with a thinking expression on his face. "I'm telling you, I heard it before." "Fuck. I'm usually good at remembering these things. Tick, tick, tick. Where did I hear those same 3 ticks?" "Fuck," Detective Bickerstaff said, trying to brainstorm. "It reminds me of the radiator in my car, or my oil when it gets low," Sergeant Harris said. Radiator or pipes. "I got it. I heard that noise when I was on the phone with Mr. Williams. That tick was in his background. He answered the phone while he was in the janitor's closet," Detective Bickerstaff said very excitedly. Detective Bickerstaff and Sergeant Harris pulled their guns out, then started running down the hallway to the janitor's closet. They positioned themselves on opposite sides of the door. Detective Bickerstaff pointed at his eyes, then pointed to the bottom of the door. It was still dark in the hallways, except for the light from the exit signs. A little light was coming from under the door of the janitor's closet. Sergeant Harris put his hand on the knob slowly. Detective Bickerstaff started counting down with his finger. 3, 2, 1. Sergeant Harris turned the knob, but it was locked. Sergeant Harris knocked on the door. "If someone is in there, you need to come out with your hands up. I'm going to count to 5, then we are coming in with force," Sergeant Harris said, very sternly. Detective Bickerstaff looked at him, confused at what he said. Sergeant Harris saw the look he got. Then he shrugged his shoulders. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sergeant Harris counted down. Nothing happened. Sergeant Harris turned in front of the door with his gun in his right hand. He grabbed the knob with his left hand as he pointed the gun at the door. He gave the knob 2 big pulls. Pow! Sergeant Harris got shot through the door. He hit the wall as fast as the bullet came through the door. Almost simultaneously, he returned shots. He emptied his clip as he slid down the wall. Detective Bickerstaff peeped in the big holes Sergeant Harris left in the door. He could see Stephanie slumped over in a chair. In her hand, she was holding something tight. It wasn't a gun. Her hand started to release what she was holding. "Fuck," Detective Bickerstaff said, as he realized it was a kill switch. She was holding a bomb detonator. He dropped his gun and dived over Sergeant Harris, who was slumped on the floor with his back to the wall. Detective Bickerstaff grabbed Sergeant Harris and pulled him as he dived over him. The bomb blew the door off the janitor's closet. What was that? Steve asked Tank. I don't know, but I will find out, Tank responded. Stay on the line. 3 minutes. Chapter 39. Tank walked down the hall slowly. He couldn't see what happened because of all the smoke. As he got closer, he saw all the debris in the hall from the closet. The door was leaning on the wall, slanted. It stopped him from seeing down the hall. As he moved closer to the door, he noticed Detective Bickerstaff laying on his stomach, covered in debris. Tank pushed the door down and made his way to Detective Bickerstaff. Are you okay? Tank asked the detective as he tried to help him up. Yeah, but Sergeant Harris needs to get out of here, Detective Bickerstaff said with a moan. Once Detective Bickerstaff sat up, Tank saw Sergeant Harris. Sergeant Harris looked back. His eyes were weak and glassy. How much time was on the timer when you left Mr. Williams? Detective Bickerstaff asked Tank. A little over 6 minutes. It's probably around 3 now, Tank said. You take Sergeant Harris down on the stairs while I try to defuse the bomb. It doesn't make any sense for you to still be up here. Please take him to safety, Detective Bickerstaff said. Tank was reluctant to follow Detective Bickerstaff's wishes. He never left a client in distress. Tank picked up Sergeant Harris and headed to the stairwell. Detective Bickerstaff limped down the hallway. He aggravated his leg injury from last year. He hobbled into the studio. Hurry, I think it's close to 2 minutes, Steve said, feeling lightheaded. Detective Bickerstaff looked at the timer. It was 1 minute 23 seconds. Almost a minute left. Do you want me to cut the wires? Detective Bickerstaff asked as he pulled out his Swiss Army knife. Yes. I hope you retain that information. Detective Bickerstaff pulled the scissors out on the pocket knife, not knowing which wire did what. He stuck a bunch of wires between the blades. 30 seconds left of the timer. He looked at Steve. Then he cut the wires at 14 seconds. The timer stopped. It stopped. You can get up. Steve opened his eyes and pointed up to heaven. Thanks for everything, he said to Detective Bickerstaff. Detective Bickerstaff stayed sitting on the floor, and Steve still in the chair. They saw lights flashing in the hallway. It was the bomb squad. When they came into the studio, although the bomb had been defused, Steve breathed a sigh of relief. Where's the bomb? One of them asked. It's under his seat. I defused it, Detective Bickerstaff told him. Here, you can have this shit, Steve said as he got out the chair. Then timer started going again, with a loud horn. Detective Bickerstaff tried to roll the chair away from them, but it fell over. Everyone in the room jumped away from the chair. Boom! The bomb went off. Steve opened his eye as he laid on his stomach. He wasn't hurt. He rolled over and confetti was falling from the ceiling. He grabbed a piece of confetti off his nose and read, Happy 50th. Detective Bickerstaff looked at him and said, I need a vacation. Stay on the line. Aftermath, Chapter 40. A month later. Detective Bickerstaff was going over the evidence on the case from home. The department told the press that Mrs. Williams was Satan. They found the phone in the janitor's closet with her that had the technology to make those untraceable calls to the station. Her infidelity was an understatement. Mrs. Williams was secretly a member of several swingers clubs. Rick, Randy, and Tracy were members at one of the clubs with her. She also transferred large sums of money into an account in the Bahamas. Still, with all that information, he didn't feel good about how the case ended. They found Sergeant Gonzalez on top of the library roof, dead. Xavier Brewer was laying on top of Sergeant Gonzalez. X, who worked for Tank, caught Sergeant Gonzalez trying to bag up his crossbow. X shot Sergeant Gonzalez, but when he kneeled to see if he was alive, Sergeant Gonzalez stabbed him with a hunting knife. Detective Bickerstaff never understood how Sergeant Gonzalez got tangled up in this. Going through the pictures and notes, he stumbled across a flyer. The flyer was of Mr. Williams's book signing. Mr. Williams released a book 1 week after his wife's memorial. Stats Bar and Grill. Detective Bickerstaff read the location on the flyer. He looked at his calendar. It was going on now. At the book signing, Steve was signing books for 2 hours straight in the private party room. Finally, he got to the last person in line. "Who do I make this out to?" he said to the lady. "Kim," she said. He signed the book and gave it to her. He got up and stretched. "Can y'all pack up the rest of the material? I need to get a drink," he said to his assistant and the crew. He walked out of the room into the bar area, then sat on a stool at the bar. "Can I get a shot of Patron and a Heineken?" He grabbed a toothpick out the holder. The bartender went to make his order. Someone placed a copy of his book beside him on the bar. Steve tapped his pockets and noticed he didn't have a pen. "Do you have a pen?" he asked as he turned on his stool to see whose book it was. It was Detective Bickerstaff with his book. "Hello, Detective. How are you?" "I'm okay. Just lately I've been racking my brain with a few things about your case," Detective Bickerstaff said. "Let it go, I know I did. It's about being better, not bitter. That's what my therapist says." The bartender handed him the drinks. "After reading your book, it all started to make sense. And I quote, 'Life isn't about riding the wave to a destination unknown. It's about making the wave and knowing its destination.' When I read that, it's like a light went off. That was deep. Not one of my favorites, but I understand why you would like that. I believe my memoir has a lot of sayings you can gravitate to." He tossed back the Patron. "You might be right. Or is this your way of controlling the wave once again? Your wife, the bodies, and even Satan hijacking the station. Was it all about creating a buzz for your book release? Creating a frenzy for your next chapter? Why would you take it that far for fame and fortune?" Steve smiled at him without responding, all the while looking over his shoulder. Detective Bickerstaff turned around to see what he was looking at. Lisa was walking towards them. She walked past Detective Bickerstaff, hugged Steve, and gave him a passionate tongue kiss. After they kissed, Lisa stood between his legs facing the detective. "Where are my manners?" "Detective, this is Lisa, my ex-therapist. We have a flight to Los Angeles to catch. Am I under arrest?" Detective Bickerstaff stared at Lisa in disbelief. "Speechless, I see. Well, you got my number. Before I go, I will leave you with this story. I had a guest on my show a few years ago, a comedian/ventriloquist. After the show and off the air, I asked him a question. I asked him what's the hardest of all when performing on stage with different puppets. He said finding the voice that matches the dummy perfectly. Once you do that, the audience pays more attention to the dummy than you. I remember that story like it was yesterday. I took that information and added to it. I love to match voices with dummies that have no clue that someone else is pulling the strings. On that note, I must go. We got a plane to catch." He looked at the detective through his shot glass. He looked through it like a telescope. Then he placed the shot glass on the detective's copy of the book on the bar. They walked out of the bar holding hands. Detective Bickerstaff watched until they were out of his view. He sat at the bar waiting for the bartender to take his order. He was confused at how Lisa was a part of Steve making a fool out of him. He placed his hands on top of his head as he dropped his head down, with his eyes closed. Once he opened his eyes, he noticed at the bottom of the shot glass was a butterfly. He moved the shot glass. The butterfly was the logo for the publishing company. New Beginning Publishing. The end.